brute force. If it doesn't work, you're just not using enough. You're listening to SOFREP Radio, special operations military news, and straight talk with the guys in the community.
Hey, what's going on? This is Rad, your host for SOFREP Radio, and I have a great guest today. But first, that's right, say it with me. The merch store, Rad. That's right. You can go to sofrep.com/merch and you can get any of our merch items that you guys want to support us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for keeping the lights and the gas on over here for the SOFREP Radio. That I am truly grateful for. Second is our book club. We have the sofrep.com/book-club. So go check it out. There's a lot of special operation people on the back end that are picking these books. They're curated by them like librarians. They're like, here, read this, Go check out Brad Thor's latest book. Go check out Brandon Webb's latest book. All these different books are in there. Go read a book and gain some knowledge and use your brain. Now, today, my guest is going to have a unique conversation on addiction and human trafficking and how he can get involved and how you can get involved with, his organization, which is called WeFightMonsters.org. And I'd like to welcome to the show, Ben Owen. Welcome.
Rad, thank you so much for having me, man. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Hey, welcome to the show. Randy Searle, he's like, hey, Rad, you need to get Ben on your show. And so we coordinated with each other. We got some time together. And so I'm really happy to have you on to talk about your organization. But first, we like to get a little bit of information from our guest, right? We like to know a little bit about where you came from and how you got to where you're at today. Because here you're on a podcast, right? And we're talking about your mission. So what were you doing at 17? Where were you at? What was your, when you joined the military, what was going on with your head in high school?
So I had graduated high school with honors. I was raised by an Army Ranger. The plan was always for me to go to the military. I was a little bit of a brainiac growing up, so I decided not to go to the military. I wanted to be a heart surgeon. Went to college on a math scholarship, but was drinking myself out with alacrity. I was in ROTC at Auburn when the towers came down, and I thought it would be a great idea to drop out and enlist. And so that's what I did. On September 11th, 2001, I dropped out and enlisted in the infantry, which was a terrible decision because I was wavered into ROTC due to a torn ACL, and I just lied about that at MEPS. So I ended up at Fort Benning in OSIT with no ACL and ended up breaking my leg and getting discharged before the summer of 2002 was over. I went back home with a major chip on my shoulder, which I just continued to drink at.
Yep.
About 5 years later, Easter Sunday of 2007, I totaled a car going $130 drunk. Somehow dodged the DUI. It was a single car accident. I think the state trooper figured I'd fucked myself up good enough.
Already.
Yeah. So they didn't charge me with anything. I got sober that day, but I was very stubborn. I didn't go to AA or any of that stuff like I knew I should have. And so I started drinking again in 2011 or 12. And then I ended up getting a methicillin-resistant staph infection in that same leg. And so prescription opiates entered the picture. Within 2 years, I had an $800 a day heroin habit. It progressed.
Oh my gosh, dude.
That are prescribed to me, to pain pills that are prescribed to somebody else, to heroin. And that, that same progression happens with a lot of people. I ended up getting arrested in 2014. Now, at this point, I'd finished college. I'd gone to a Fortune 500. I left that, started my own business. So I had 30 employees in a multi-million-dollar a year business, but I also had an $800 a day heroin habit. I ended up getting arrested on my way home from the firing range with my own guns and my own drugs, but I had a suppressor, a submachine gun, all legally. But when you have dope in the vehicle with those things, they typically frown on it.
Federal.
And so they charged me like I was Pablo Escobar. I got court-ordered into a drug court program. The Veterans Court program wouldn't take me. One, because I didn't even serve a year, but two, because of the gun charges. They were convinced the feds were coming after me. So I get court-ordered into drug court. I had destroyed my marriage, destroyed my business, lost my home, all my vehicles, and my freedom. I ended up meeting who is now my wife in Narcotics Anonymous. I don't recommend meeting women in It's not
So you got a
smart.
bad habit? Let's just get it out of the way right now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You guys
So,
already know each other. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's
right.
actually, I got another friend who has a friend and they met in the same type of space. And I was like, all right, you guys both got on the same plane together with the same kind of luggage. Okay, going south.
You can guess how it ended. We ended up relapsing together, and
Oh my
from
gosh.
2015 to 2019, I'll spare you all the details, but it was a constant roller coaster of back in jail, getting stabbed, getting shot at, heart attacks. We got kidnapped. We were held hostage for ransom with our 2-year-old at one point in time. But anyway, the high side of the story is in 2019, we hit rock bottom. We got sober. I got my businesses back off the ground. And this is why we met Randy, because the story is pretty fucking crazy. Like we had,
Yeah, it is crazy. Right. And you're so
Randy,
open about it. Thanks for being so vulnerable. I just want to say that out there, okay? First of all.
Well, I appreciate that, man. But
Yeah.
look, it's the way I look at this. I didn't live through all of that for nothing. Like if I keep that story hidden and secret and it doesn't do anybody else any good, then I'm just a selfish jackass who shouldn't have lived through some bad things. I've got to put those scar stories into the service of somebody else. So we rebuilt our businesses, and in 2021, I own a company called BlackRifle, not the coffee company. We do data intelligence for the gun industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it took off really big during COVID. And Jess and I had been through this cycle. Jess is my wife now, the one I met in Narcotics Anonymous. We've been through the cycle of building businesses and having a lot of money and relapsing. Like we've done that plenty of times. And so in 2021, when we had a lot of money again, we were like, we don't want to just destroy this. Like we actually like life. We want to stay clean. And so we started a nonprofit to be of service, and it was called Flanders Fields. And the idea was to help other vets battling opiate addiction. If you haven't figured this out already, I have like crippling weaponized ADHD. So I'm very
No, it's good. No, it's good. You're flowing just fine. If you feel like you're hitting a speed bump, I'm going to say that, because I was going to say Flanders Field is the first thing that you guys got involved with, and then you transitioned into We Fight Monsters, and that's a .org, right? So everybody understands that right off the bat.
Yes. And so shiny object syndrome is something that gets me a lot. And in 2021, that happened with Flanders. We got pulled into the evacuation out of Afghanistan. So, 20 years prior, I had enlisted to go kill terrorists in Afghanistan. And part of the chip I always had on my shoulders, I never got to actually do anything good for our nation. And I saw this as an opportunity to help our allies and honor a promise that the America I believed in had made to our partner nation forces. And so we got pulled in on the data side, on the BlackRifle side, but ended up bringing that original nonprofit to bear full force. We ran one of the largest networks of safe houses in Afghanistan during the evacuation. And that's how I ended up getting linked up with Scott Mann during Operation Pineapple Express. And then we went on and did some more stuff in Ukraine. But the whole time, like we're trying to bring all of these cool guy circles that we're building and these new skill sets we've got to bear for Memphis. The streets used to be homeless. And so finally in 2022, we did that. We started We Fight Monsters, which is to help really anybody battling addiction, but especially trafficked females, prostitutes. Because when we were out there homeless, those were our friends. They were the people that fed us when we had nothing. They were the people that put a roof over our heads.
Right.
And so we went back to Memphis like hell bent on fighting sex and narcotics trafficking, but from a different angle. Instead of shooting people and putting people in jail, we're trying to meet everybody where they're at. Drug dealers, prostitutes, gang members, addicts, full circle. We're trying to stop violent crime. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Memphis is America's deadliest city. In the last 2 years, it's had a steeper population decline than anywhere else in the country. The overdose death rate in Memphis is twice as high as the national average. Men on the streets of Memphis are more likely statistically to be dead or in prison than they are to have a job or be in college. I could go on and on about stats for illustrating how bad Memphis is, but we felt a very strong pull to go back to that city. And so that's what we've done. So today,
I just want to say that it's also here in Salt Lake City, okay?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to let you know that there's fentanyl is in Salt Lake as well. And usually the people getting busted are white.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, like the people that are bringing in it that we're seeing out here, it's like, it's not who they're painting a picture of.
Right.
Like in Pennsylvania, that big bust was a bunch of dudes that were just Americans that were doing fentanyl. It's just like came out of PA, and Memphis, you know, I just want to say that, you know, it's the same thing with the 80s with crack.
Yep.
All right. Where'd they put that? Where did they get that? Where'd they leak it? You know, where did they sell that? Where did Jay-Z sell that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. 100%. Let's not forget that. Right. And so disenfranchise, get it to people who will just go get whatever they can to get that fix. And
That's
the drug,
exactly right.
the drug is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. The drug is the problem. The people that bring it to them knowingly know that they're taking money and from people who get money from wherever they can, however they can, because they're feeding it to them.
Yeah, and you just touched on the crux of the issue there, and it's that, you know, people are essentially, once you get them addicted to an opiate, they become a slave to that dope. They'll do whatever they have to stay well, to not get dope sick, and so it fuels the overwhelming majority of violent crime in Memphis. And so, you know, by attacking that primary driver of instability there, well, really it's twofold, and you kind of touched on it there too. It's the economic instability, and then it's the addiction as the escape. And both of them they factor in together. To date, we've been able to shut down 4 fentanyl trafficking operations, 1 human trafficking operation. We've turned 2 dope houses into what we call hope houses, 1 brothel into a hope house. At any given point in time, we're housing about 75 men, women, and kids. We've gotten a total of about 400 people off the streets and back into the workforce. And we did all that without shooting anybody or putting anybody in jail other than 3 child predators. I don't feel like incarceration is going to fix an addict or a gang member. But when you're talking about child or sexual predators, I mean, they've got to be removed from the community. They cannot be free. So we don't really consider them people.
Sure, I can understand that. You know, you have them labeled as like, you know, just inhuman, you know, just, you know, all the names, all the clothing that's out there that has like, you know, I'd rather see a pedophile shot or something like that. You know, all these things. I understand that. Now, I do also understand that since the dawn of time, you know, sexual services have been a thing, right? And so there's a way to have like, you know, a legitimate a brothel or whatnot, like in Las Vegas, they have that. Is that a thing in Memphis? Does Tennessee allow that legally, or are these brothels all just underground that you're going in and trying to, you know, that you're checking out there?
It's definitely all illicit. Prostitution is not legal in Tennessee. And to date, we've not encountered prostitution or sex trafficking in the city of Memphis a single time in absence of addiction. It constantly seems that addiction is the tool of coercion that's being used even to get minor females to sell their bodies for sex.
Sure.
So by the addiction, we're going after the prostitution at the same time.
Yeah, we even have like current that congressman who's all screwed because he was baiting with drugs these minors, Matt Gaetz. Okay, right, the congressman from Florida, right? Forced to retire from the Congress immediately so that it wouldn't all come at him. I mean, he is exactly the example of power abusing women.
100%. 100%. And, you know,
with drugs.
Yes. And you know, you and I have to accept some form of responsibility for this. Men are the number one customers of sex trafficking. There's no doubt about that. We drive this problem.
Oh, men. Well, men just want to stick it in something. They don't care. It's just like a guy's just like got one mode. But to be real about it, you know, it starts like you think these people that are put in positions like here in Utah, just right now, there is a judge and a fire chief in the same county who are now behind bars for sexual explicit of children and minors. And then here, and guess what? They're not trans, they're not migrants, they're not, you know, bad hombres that are in America. These 2 dudes are white church members of their faith, of the Mormon faith, and they just go around and are in charge of the youth programs in their church. It's the fire chief, it's a judge. These guys, man, like, so who should we really be looking for, right? Because a lot of people are out there painting a picture like, look for these bad hombres, look for somebody that's, man, they're the judges, they're the congressmen.
They're the church leaders. I mean,
they're the church
really
leaders, dude.
Yeah.
Look, 100%. They're the president. He's got it, dude. He's got it. He's only gotten off because of money.
Yeah,
we all know
sick,
it.
Man.
We all know it. Epstein's Island. We all know it.
Yeah, that's a great point. We've got Epstein's dead, of course, and then Ghislaine Maxwell.
He seems like he's living on. You know what I'm saying? It seems like these guys are living.
Not a single person that went and paid for sex with these kids on that island has been locked up. What the hell? I can't wrap my mind around that.
No, I don't get it either, because they're paying 12 million pounds. Prince Andrew's like, oh, I didn't even know her, so here's 12 million pounds. There's a photo with me with her, but I don't even know her.
Yeah, it's disgusting, man. It's disgusting.
And it's got to tweak someone like yourself who runs an organization that is against this exact thing. To see these folks, you're like sitting here trying to help people in your neighborhood, and then you see these guys on these large level stages just doing it. Really, there's people locked up like P. Diddy right now facing all these charges.
Yeah, if people with money get away with unconscionable things, man, and it's really fucked up, because the people we're out there on the streets trying to help, they grew up with nothing. They don't even know how they're going to eat tomorrow.
No.
But you see people with exploiting them who never have to worry about a single thing that money can provide, and that hurts. That hurts.
And they think $500 is a lot for their services. Here's $500, or like, let me Venmo you $300 for your day. And they got all this money, and it's chump change. It's like, where's the 5,000? Dude, maybe I'm just high priced. I don't know. But then again, the fentanyl and the coke and the crack, it's so addictive, and the heroin that $20 is $20, right?
Oh, I've seen women turn a trick for half a pack of Newports before. It's hopeless out there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely heartbreaking, because a lot of them, they were first exploited in the home. We've got a 53-year-old female out there on the streets that we've been trying to get into rehab for years. Her first trafficker was her mother when she was 12. Her mom sold her to the dope man for crack. And she's been out there for 40 years now. And the really
she's living a lifestyle. Yeah.
Is her mom is 17 years clean now, and she's still out there.
And she literally moved her, sold her, traded her, said here, and now her daughter, all she knows is just that life of living in that life. And 40 years later, that's sad, And I've got a brother, and he's hard pressed. I get it. We all have family. Somebody has somebody close to them. It's not to be ignored.
That's right.
We have, and it's just, it's terrible. And when you think of human trafficking, I don't know if it's just me, but you think of like what's been painted these days is like, the cartels coming and snatching them, or you've seen the movie Taken, and it's like, they're bidding on them. I'll take $400,000 for her, things like that. It's like,
I'm not going to say that doesn't happen.
Right, me too.
What I will say is I have never seen every instance of sex trafficking that I have borne witness to, which has been a very large amount in the last 3 or 4 years. Well, 3 or 4 years fighting it, and then 10 years when I was out there on the street seeing it every day. It's always, without fail, addiction-fueled exploitation. It begins with a woman selling, well, I just gave you an example. It didn't begin this way, but usually it begins with a woman selling her own body to feed an addiction. And then at some point, a pimp is going to come in and take advantage of that situation. He's going to offer them protection, housing, food. He's going to meet some basic needs in exchange for his services as a pimp. And then now she's being trafficked. She's gone from essentially trafficking herself to being trafficked by a pimp.
And he and she, because now let's just be real. Like, again, in Salt Lake City, there's this area where it's, everybody's kind of walking around, and you're just like, why is there just random people walking around the corners in this area over here? It's boy and girl.
Yeah.
And
we've had a number of females come to us from jails and institutions who were traffickers. A lot of them were trafficked themselves too, but they became madams at some point in that journey.
Sure. Yeah, because it's just kind of like maybe someone has some business skills and some organizational prowess, and they can say, hey, it works better maybe if we try to unionize or do something.
That's exactly right.
I'm not trying to say no, and be safe somehow.
Yeah.
Safer.
Well,
because
that same business savvy that you just brought up on the back end on the work we're doing, that actually comes in very handy. We've been able to flip a lot of former pimps and former drug dealers to our side of this fight by helping them stand up businesses. So today, like we've got a former dope boy that is running a business where he's employing all the guys he used to sell crack to. And that's, one of the tactics we use to really flip these streets around to get the bad guys to become good and start helping the same people they used to exploit. And it works. It doesn't surprise anybody to hear that a dope boy makes a good businessman. They're entrepreneurial at the core.
Bro, who did I mention earlier in the show who has a book written about his selling crack? You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z. Okay?
Yep.
If he had not been doing that and focused on the business aspect of other things, but that's what he wanted to sell. That's what he was selling.
Yeah.
And that's what other people see that and say, oh, hey, this is something that people want to feed off of, right? They want it all the time. It's like gasoline for your vehicle. You need to have it. So it's like, where are you going to get it? The local gas station on the corner, dude. You know what I'm saying? Well, even if it's $3.59 here, I'm already here. I might as well just get it. If it's $3.29 over there, I'm already here. Here's $3.59. It's like, different gasoline dealers dealing same stuff. Everybody needs gas. It's like you gotta have it. Gotta have it. It's the same thing as a drug. It's like you gotta have it, whether it's weed, whether it's crack, whether it's cocaine, or fentanyl, or opiates. Here at SOFREP, we have this big mantra, and it's called thrills before pills. And what that is get outside, go snowboarding, go for a hike, go walk around a river that is near you. You go walk a creek bed, that might be dried out, but just look at the rocks and just go explore before you start taking some type of a pill to help you explore, okay? So like, you want to, I'm just saying, right? I get it,
No, that's brilliant.
Just thrills before pills. And for someone like yourself, went to the Army, got out of the Army, found yourself in a rough patch, dealing with it on the streets, seeing it firsthand, knowing that these people are good people. You know that they're good people. They fed you, and they probably gave you things off their own back, as you probably did for them. And it's not so much the fight for yourself sometimes. Sometimes you're that person who's still so giving, even when you have nothing. You give everything that you can that you get to somebody else, right? I've seen it. I know it's human nature. You're going to be who you are, even in the worst situation. So if you're a giver, you're always going to be a giver.
Yeah, and you run into a lot of givers on the streets, man. It's weird. Some of the purest hearts we have in this country, I firmly believe, are in homeless camps.
I don't doubt that. Like in LA, they just tore apart there's a LA river, and there's the cement channel that it flows through in LA. It's one of those types of canals. And along like the tree line, somebody had built all of these shanty homes. They were like they had like curbside appeal, right? they had like windows, and like somebody there was just really savvy to say, hey, this is how we do all of this here. Maybe he became the mayor of Shantyville, but they came and just tore it away. No one was staying there. No one cared about that until all of a sudden somebody had a place to stay, that was looking for a place to stay. And then we just get, Governor Gavin Newsom was out there cleaning it up with them all, showing that he's out there cleaning up their built, unlicensed, unpaid, taxed shanty. You can't even set up a tent in some places. I don't mind Oregon, where they allow like people to have a place to set up a tent. They understand the need to like sleep.
Well, and I mean, a lot of the times, if you go out and you deal in a homeless camp in any capacity whatsoever, you're going to realize like everybody in that camp, for the most part, has one of two things going on, if not both: addiction, alcoholism, or mental illness. You rarely find people homeless in the absence of those conditions. And until we have a better way to address mental health in this country, I don't think homelessness is going anywhere. I really don't. It's not. Especially in the veteran population, you don't just wake up one day and have bad luck and end up homeless. It doesn't work that way. It takes a series of bad decisions that usually go back to mental health or addiction or alcoholism. And until we can address those things, I don't think homelessness is going anywhere. So being able to deal with that population in a compassionate way is an important thing.
You know what I don't understand is I do, a lot of my listeners will know that I do large scale airsoft war games in Utah and around the nation. And we'll use old military bases that were decommissioned and the housing is still in place. All of the 3-story buildings for the dorms are still there. The old hospital is still on the base because I fight through all of it. It could have easily not been just left to the desert to go away and be leased to play war games. I'm thankful to be able to play war games at such a great, cool military base that doesn't matter if I kick a wall down. But I can only imagine, when we're not there that one weekend or the 3 weekends that there's games out there, there's a little security dude driving a car around the whole base, just making sure nobody's sleeping inside of these buildings. It's like,
yep.
Why not just, it's already there. Like taxpayers already paid to have it in Victorville. Why not just, put some, I'm just confused.
There's what we call buyback the block, and that was the block we started shutting down dope houses on in Memphis. Immediately adjacent to this street, it's called Melrose. There's a 76,000 square foot abandoned nursing home that's been empty for 20 fucking years. I mean, think about that. This is in a zip code in Memphis that has a higher infant mortality rate than Haiti does, and I already gave you a bunch of depressing statistics about it.
Right.
This huge facility could be put to good use out there. We finally got in contact with the owner, and she wants to do something big with it. The city wants to do something with it. So I think we're going to make something good happen there. The point I'm making is, like, with these military bases, you've got, maybe somebody just needs to go with the idea and get it in front of the right person. That's what we had to do. We
Really?
sat there and bitched. We sat there and bitched about the 76,000 square foot abandoned facility for 2 years, just complaining, saying, wouldn't it be great if? And then one day I got the wild hair up my ass. Let me find out who owns it, and I'm going to call her. And that's what I did. And then the first time we spoke, she's like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. We're going to turn it into West Tennessee's largest treatment facility. So sometimes with these abandoned places like that, it's just a matter of getting to the right person. Now, the issue you might run into, it's federally owned, and
Exactly.
Right person on that.
No, there's no more people at the government. I think it's all been, you're fired.
Yeah,
Everybody's been fired these days, dude. I don't even know, bro. It's like, because it's not the only base, there's other bases around the country that have been decommissioned. It's like, they're just sitting there growing grass.
There's tons of them. Maybe they turn over to the state or something. I don't know if they remain federal property. It'd be worth looking into, though, because that is a great idea.
I'm just thinking,
all the facilities you could ever need. You get huge dining halls, you get dorms, it'd be good. That's something to look into.
I mean, and all those things we're talking about, I fight through with 300 to 800 people. So it's street to street, house to house. And so we're fighting in a 1 mile square grid with war machines and tanks and deuce and a halves dropping people off at the rear, streets like Washington and Utah and Idaho and North Carolina, and you're crossing them as phase lines. So I can only imagine, let alone the hospital that you get to fight through. It's in that grid as well. And so you're not only clearing a hospital of all of its rooms and looking for anybody in there, you got a whole, 1 mile square grid that you're hunting people through, which could easily be converted into tiny homes. Even the bases up in Northern California, like Alameda, and there's bases out there, the naval bases and stuff, they could also become a refuge if they haven't already. I just, why let them go to waste?
Exactly. We have a tremendous amount of waste, especially at the federal level in this country. Hell, how much stuff do we leave in Afghanistan? It's like $80-some-odd billion worth of military equipment.
Bro, sold it to him, dude. The current guy in charge right now sold all that. And then December 22nd of that same year, after he had voted out of election because Biden had won, he signed that accord to pull out of Afghanistan.
Yeah, Doha.
So it's
was a complete fuck up.
what was he even doing that for? Why was he even getting involved? Who wants to invite the Taliban to the White House? That guy did. you know, and that guy is the current president. And so, you know, I'm not afraid to say it because it's the facts, right? But everybody's going to blame, you know, the last guy that was in charge of it, and that was going to be President Biden, who got the full blame for the fall of Afghanistan. But when I've had so many people on this show who have been there, who have been helping move people like what you're saying, who've had their feet broken when they were captured because they're SAS and they never said it while they were captured. But for 4 weeks, my friend got his feet hit and broken because he had helped 400 and some odd people, like kind of safe house to safe house to safe house through Afghanistan, bro. Just like what you helped with, you know, yourself as well, that kind of safe house stuff. So again, there's just a lot, you know, the different diplomats that we've had on the show who have been there. There's always two sides to every story. Now, the images that were shown coming out of Afghanistan are awful. Afghanistan are awful, right?
I think there's like 8 sides to it, and I still haven't figured out which one's real.
No, right.
You got 2 presidents that both fucked up. I mean, there's no way around that. But what was really weird is while we were doing the evac, it seemed like our biggest enemy was the State Department. Like the White House was supportive. The Biden White House was supportive of a lot of the efforts, but the State Department was roadblocking everything. We never could figure out why. Like to this day, I don't know who the boogeyman was.
Right. Well, it's the opium fields, bro. We're talking. My whole conversation with you is about addiction right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's get, and I'm cracking into Afghanistan, the fall of Afghanistan, quote unquote. But there's DEA huts out there that are surrounding these little opium fields that aren't little, quote unquote. And the whole point is what? We got to keep that going to supply what? To who? Where is that opium going? Yeah, exactly. So what does China do and what do other countries do? They try to get it into us. With what? Fentanyl.
Well,
okay, so they're like,
China, I mean, really, if you can just look at this objectively, they pulled a brilliant move. You know, the CCP has incentivized Chinese pharmaceutical manufacturers with tax breaks if they manufacture the precursor chemicals to fentanyl and they export them. Now, if they sell them inside China, they don't get tax breaks. They probably get death penalty. But if they export them to Mexico, the Chinese Communist Party gives them a tax break. I mean, this is like the most beautiful, if it wasn't affecting me the way it is, it's the most beautiful payback for the opium war you could ever imagine.
Bro, you know, the fact that it's being distributed to, you know, coerce a nation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. They funnel all of the drugs into America to get America to get addicted to the drug, to then coerce them into feeling that this is what it should be, X, Y, and Z. And it's the same thing that we do with the poppy fields, which is in Afghanistan. Let's not lie about that. That's there. It's very much real. And it's very much protected.
Oh, dude, 90+%. I want to say it was like 98%. The DEA actually has statistics on this. 98% of the heroin that was in the United States when I was on heroin originated from Afghan poppy field. Now today, you know, just the simple dope economics of fentanyl, you can't even find heroin anymore because fentanyl's so much cheaper and so much stronger for the dope boys to do. You know, for them to mix up their dope. I mean, they can step on it 100 fucking times and still.
I don't even get it. I don't even get fentanyl. I don't even get it. My someone who I knew very close to me, who passed away from breast cancer, she had fentanyl lollipops.
Yep.
Okay, and she'd have it in her mouth all the time to cut the pain.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's
very effective analgesic. If you've ever had surgery, you've probably been given fentanyl. But they dose it in micrograms. Like the lollipops, I think most of them are 100 micrograms. So that's 0.1 milligrams. It's like next to nothing. You're going to trust a drug dealer to mix that up for you? Come on, man.
No. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, why all of a sudden has it become so... I just want to know I don't know the root of it. Like, it's not like it's weed, like cannabis. It's like, it's fentanyl, bro. It's like...
Yeah, here's how it happened, okay? So if you're addicted to opiates and you don't get your fix, you get violently ill. Being dope sick is one of the most terrifying experiences a human can ever go through. I can't describe it. It's like the flu plus COVID plus food poisoning plus a panic attack, and it lasts for 3 days. Fentanyl is an opiate analgesic. It prevents dope sickness. And the euphoric effect is very similar to hydrocodone, oxycodone, or heroin. So from the addict standpoint, they don't give a shit. Fentanyl does what they need the drug to do. Now, from the dope boy standpoint or the cartel standpoint, you need a much lower quantity of fentanyl to produce the same effect as you do heroin. Heroin also has to be grown in a poppy field in Afghanistan, exported illegally because the Taliban will kill you, exported illegally to Iran, and then finished into a product called heroin, and then exported. And it's like the supply chain is very, very expensive to get heroin from a poppy field in Afghanistan into the U.S. supply chain. Fentanyl, on the other hand, China is basically paying Chinese pharmaceutical companies to send the precursor chemicals to Mexico, where it's refined in pharmaceutical quality laboratories and pressed into fake pills or just across the border as bulk heroin. Bulk fentanyl. So it's like orders of magnitude cheaper for the narcotics trafficker side of this to get the exact same effect that the addict needs. So that's why fentanyl has pretty much replaced heroin on the streets. We've been working on the streets of Memphis actively since 2022. When I left the streets in 2019, there was fentanyl. You could get it, but there was still heroin. Since 2019, I've not seen heroin a single time, not once. I've seen ounces and ounces of fentanyl at a time. I've never seen heroin since we went back. It's gone. It's over with.
That's wild, bro. It's just crazy. I mean, I get it. There's a will, there's a way, and then
Yeah.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I know it sells. Those three things right there. That's the LA guns, rock and roll lifestyle. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They named an album that, because if you could put your business into one of those three categories, entertainment, drugs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, bro, you're gonna
print money.
Yeah, exactly.
It's simple economics, and if you understand that, then it makes sense how fentanyl skyrocketed. The thing about being addicted to opiates, like, the logic goes out the window. When I said earlier you're a slave to that substance, I mean, like, I can't overstate that. You really are a slave to that substance. So things like, oh no, I might overdose, that doesn't even enter your brain. All that goes into your mind is, if I don't get this now, I'm going to be sick. And it's not just like an uncomfortable sick. It's, you'll do anything to prevent that. And so fentanyl, we've seen a drastic rise in sex trafficking because of it. Because if you get a female addicted to fent, she's going to do anything to prevent being dope sick. So if you control the dope, you control those women. And so that's why the two go hand in hand so frequently in Memphis or anywhere else.
Really, Memphis can just be also Salt Lake City. You know what I mean? It could be it could be your town, USA. And I know that Memphis has a higher crime rate, and you say murder rate, and a declining population. That's crazy, right? I mean, I know that happens here too, but not as much. Bro, first of all, sorry about Memphis having that kind of, violent crime action going on, dude. I can only imagine it's just unnecessary. It's unnecessary.
It sucks. We've had 2 murders in the last 48 hours in our little internet work, and I'm eulogizing an 18-year-old girl tomorrow.
Yeah, it's just unnecessary.
It is very unnecessary. It's heartbreaking, but if you look at what we're doing there, if we're able to do that in a city whose outlook is as hopeless as Memphis is, we can do it anywhere. And to your point, these issues I'm describing, they may be worse in Memphis, but they're everywhere. They are everywhere. And let's just talk from a national security standpoint, okay? Recruiting is at an all-time low for, I think, every branch except the Marine Corps. Fentanyl is now the number one killer of fighting age adults, 24 to, I think, 54. Is the number one killer, more than heart disease, murder, suicide, car wrecks, and cancer combined. So we're at all-time low on recruiting, and we're losing basically a generation of Americans, 2 battalions a week. We're losing to a single substance that's being funneled into our country by our biggest political enemy, China.
Bro, I wish there was more insight into this fentanyl thing, because it's like, what are they doing? Are they giving it to the kids in different types of drugs, not calling it fentanyl, and it's bad, and they're eating it, and that's what it is? That's what it is. It's got to be. These kids, I don't think these kids, they got to be scared of it. Like, heroin scared me growing up.
Yeah. Well, what they do, they press fentanyl into fake pills. So if you go to buy a Xanax or a pain pill from the street, it looks just like what comes from the pharmacy, but instead of having, uh, I've gone brain dead. Instead of having a benzodiazepine in it, or instead of having hydrocodone, it's fentanyl. And so you end up, the fentanyl is just getting sold everywhere. Matter of fact, we had a sister organization of ours in Texas. The founder's brother bought Adderall in Phoenix, Arizona last year, and it was fentanyl, and he's dead now. Like it is in everything.
So it's just they're just like saying, yeah, it's what you want. Here you go, and then bye, and then they're gone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
Holy cow!
they don't want you to die. They want you to
No,
become a customer, but it's such a potent substance. It doesn't take much of an overdose. And by overdose, I don't mean in your body. I mean they have overdosed a single capsule for it to kill you.
oh, I've lost a family member to a heroin overdose. So it's like she had gone clean, and then she relapsed with a text message to the guy because we have her phone and it was her text message. The last messages, it said like, "Hey, I want some," and he's like, "Yo, I think it's too strong for you," and she's like, "I'll be the judge of that," and then the next morning,
Damn.
she didn't wake up from that, straight up.
Damn,
And then I went and cleaned out her apartment.
man.
Yeah, and watched her get buried at like 8, 19, 21, 20, 19 to 21. Sorry, I don't want to, it's a family member, and so just.
And see, that's the thing. This touches everybody.
Yeah, dude.
I think everybody at this point has a story like that. Like we should be doing something about this as a country. I mean, this should be like front page news everywhere.
It shouldn't just be politicized though. It shouldn't just be like painted a picture of like this is bad. It should actually be done something about it. It shouldn't just be I'm doing something but nothing.
Yeah, the war on drugs has been an abject failure by every metric measurable. And the only people that really even bring fentanyl up, they used it as like a political talking point. They want to blame Biden because we had a porous southern border.
Right.
They want to yell at Trump because he's not doing X, Y, and Z. Nobody actually wants to tackle the fucking issue.
No.
Okay, look at it in this context. If we had a Boeing 747 crash today, it would be on front page news everywhere because 300 some people were on that plane and they're dead. We lose that many people every other day to fentanyl. Every other day.
Right.
Like that, how are we? This should be everywhere.
And you're seeing it, you see it. You're seeing it, especially from your neck of the woods where it is worse in Memphis area, So I mean, dude. But that's what WeFightMonsters.org is all about. When you go to your website and check that out, it's very easy to navigate. There's like operations, and you have like Operation Buy Back the Hood. No, Make the Hood Great Again. Right. And like you have like these different cube or squares that you can like click on and start with like a donation for bring the dog to see, bring this service dog, help bring our service dog to somebody. There's a lot of like what seems very worthwhile things that you can just donate to this specific cause. Right. It's like this person got her car stolen and could use some help getting back on her feet because she was on her feet until her car got stolen. And if you've ever, right. And so at WeFightMonsters.org, you guys have a really nice platform, and I can see why Randy was like, "Hey, Rad, you got to get you on, Ben, and have you talk about your organization and just everything that we just went back and forth about, dude. Right? Yeah. Addiction, it's real. Right. It's very real. Say that one more time. I didn't catch you.
We got a lag here. I'm sorry. I was saying I really appreciate you sharing your platform with us, man. I really do. Randy's been helping us with our book. It's on Kickstarter right now. If you just look up We Fight Monsters on Kickstarter, you can check it out. We got some cool add-ons on there. But, man, thank you so much for sharing your platform. You seem like one hell of a cool dude. If I'm ever in Salt Lake City, I'm going to look you up for sure.
Oh, please, and come do some war games with me. You know what I'm saying? Because
I would love to.
It's like it's thrills before pills, bro. That's why.
That's right, man.
Okay, and so I just want to say thanks again for being on the show and talking about WeFightMonsters.org, talking about your story and the hardships that you've been through and the successes that you've had, that life is worth living for. and that you're continuing to live, because we've all been like, am I supposed to be here today? Okay, I'm here today. We've all had those
That's right.
moments in life, dude. All right, and if a little bit of a lag. Go ahead.
The struggle is something we've all had to go through. And, I think purpose in the veteran population in particular, and also in the addicts and recovery population, is a very important thing. We have to find our purpose. I love your concept of thrills before pills. Every example you gave of a thrill is amazing. I would add one thing to that. Try to find a way to be of service to somebody who can't ever repay you every day. And, in that act of being of service, I think a lot of us will maybe identify something tied to our purpose here on this earth. I appreciate you very much, dude.
Hey, and I really appreciate those last few words of being kind. It's infectious, and helping someone without expecting something back in return. I've given uniforms from my shop to people who come into my shop, and some people might look at them weird, but they're on the spectrum, and they may just think that I'm a safe space. And my customer would be like, "Why do you help that guy?" And I'm like, "Because he needed it." I'm just thinking, you just gotta, I love how you put that, bro. Be very Boy Scout in life, and open the door, help others, do the best you can in all you do. And on behalf of Ben Owen and his wife, Jessica, right? Is that right? Yes, she's out there. Give her a shout out, okay? She's your sounding board, okay? WeFightMonsters.org is a very cool website, so go check that out. And on behalf of SOFREP, the merch store, the book club, and Brandon Webb, and all of the operators behind us that push this ship forward, I want to say peace.
You've been listening to SOFREP Radio.